is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Underdog Podcast. Today we are starting my 2022 NFL draft grades for each team. We're going to be going division by division, breaking down every team's draft, every team's pick in every round. Starting with the NFC East here today, we'll be going through the entire NFC, and then we'll start with the AFC East and go through their entire conference as well. Going in alphabetical order here, so we're going to start with the Dallas Cowboys. And they had I think a lot of teams had an interesting draft. They definitely had an interesting draft. So you'll see up here, you'll see all the picks, all their grades, and then kind of what each means. So an A is an excellent pick, a B is a good pick, a C is an average pick, a D is a bad pick, and an F is a terrible. So we start off with their first round pick, Tyler Smith, the tackle from Tulsa. I detailed this in my first round draft grade video. I thought Tyler Smith was definitely a reach. I had him as a round 2, 3 prospect. But I understand the philosophy behind the Dallas Cowboys going tackle here, or going offensive line in general, because I think Tyler Smith could play both tackle and guard. Number 1, they lost Connor Williams free agency to the Miami Dolphins. Number 2, Tyron Smith's getting older. He's not staying healthy, and they really needed to get some youth into the building there at that position. I think Tyler Smith's really raw prospect. He had a lot of penalties. At his time at Tulsa, he also just his technique is not great in pass protection. I think he'd be much better served a couple years at guard and then potentially moving out to tackle. But again, I thought it was a reach. Thought he was a round 2, 3 prospect. They could have went in other areas if they wanted to go tackle. Bernard Raymond would have been a better pick. Daniel Falele, Zach Tom. So those guys would have all been better picks in my opinion. Then we go to the second round. They drafted Sam Williams, the edge from Ole Miss. I did not like this pick at all. I thought Sam Williams was definitely more of a day 3 guy. Needed a lot of development. He is a good athlete, but he didn't really have any pass rush moves and was not great against the run. I think he's going to get bullied there. Was not a fan of this pick at all from Dallas. I thought it was a clear reach. And then Jalen Tolbert from South Alabama, I have it as a C grade. I was not very high on Jalen Tolbert myself. I thought he was reminiscent of guys like N'Keal Harry, big-bodied guy that could not get separation at all. I think he is a better route runner than N'Keal Harry was coming out, but I'm just not really a big fan of this pick. It's going to be interesting because they did need another wide receiver in there, but he's not really a slot guy. So it's going to be interesting if they move CeeDee Lamb or even Michael Gallup to the slot, as those guys have been mainly perimeter guys throughout their careers. Tolbert's coming out of small school as well, so you wonder about the level of competition. But I was not a fan of this pick. Thought there were better options on the board, for sure. Then we have Jake Ferguson, the tight end from Wisconsin. This is Dalton Schultz 2.0. I mean, he is exactly like Dalton Schultz. They had very similar testing numbers, very similar athletic profiles. Production was almost the same coming out. So they tagged Dalton Schultz at the end of the season. This is your Dalton Schultz replacement in Jake Ferguson. I had this grade as an A. I thought it was an excellent fit. Ferguson's a willing blocker. I think he can improve there a little bit. Really good possession guy. Sure-handed chain mover. I think what the Cowboys have been used to for the last, 15 years at tight end with Jason Witten and Dalton Schultz now. So this is a really good pickup for them. I see Ferguson not, contributing a ton year 1. I mean, that tight end 2 where it's like 20 catches, 200 yards, a couple touchdowns, and then he really takes over for Dalton Schultz in year 2 because I think he's exactly what they had in Dalton Schultz. I think there's no need for them to pay Dalton Schultz now that they have Jake Ferguson. And then we have Matt Waletzko, tackle from North Dakota. I thought this was a B. Had him around round 4 to 6th grade. I think, again, adding depth at tackle. They have Terrence Steele and Tyron Smith, but adding Tyler Smith and Matt Waletzko gives you a nice breed of youth into the tackle room. Waletzko is a really good athlete, just raw and needs NFL coaching, playing at a lower level of competition at North Dakota. He does have really good hand placement. I just think it's his footwork that's going to need to improve a lot, especially on his kick slide. He's slow coming out of his stance. So I think explosiveness is definitely lacking. However, he does have good recovery technique. I think he can be a decent player at the next level, potentially turn into a starter. As we've seen the Cowboys have pretty good coaching in their offensive linemen. Tyler Biadasz just turned out well. And so has Terrence Steele, who's probably their projected right tackle next season. And we have Deron Bland, the corner from Fresno State. I'm going to be honest, I don't know much about this guy. Long, lengthy corner out of Fresno State. Good production. I just did not get to watch tape on him. So I have that as a C just because I don't know much about him. And then we have Damon Clark, the linebacker from LSU. I had this as a B+. I thought he was a 3rd to a 4th round grade. But before the injury concerns, and then obviously he's probably not going to play this season with the back injuries, so that slid him 2 out of 4 or 5. I think this is good value for Damon Clark. Gives him another body in there. They brought Lane Vander Esch back on a 1-year deal, and they drafted Jabril Cox last year and Micah Parsons. Damon Clark is a really solid linebacker, really good in coverage, instinctive against the run, but the injuries definitely what pushed him back into the later rounds. I think he can be a solid starter at the next level. Not insane upside, but I liked Damon Clark. I thought occasionally, he took bad angles on the run or went underneath blocks, but I think that's, coachable. Had it not been for this injury, I think Damon Clark would have been a day 2 pick. And then we have John Ridgeway. I just graded as a B-. It's not really a good interior defensive lineman class. I thought he was a draftable player, and at this point in the draft, late day 3, taking a shot on one of these guys that has a decent athletic upside is a good pick, in my opinion, for the Cowboys. Ridgeway is really good against the run. I don't really think he's going to offer you much as a pass rusher, but the Cowboys have had a really hard time finding guys that are really good, stout defenders against the run, and I think Ridgeway can give you that, at least on be an early down rotational player, because the Cowboys, frankly, have not had any interior defensive line presence stopping the run at all. So maybe Ridgeway can give you some of that. I would expect him to make the team with how bad their interior group has been. I'm surprised they did not invest earlier in that pick. Maybe, round 2 taking like a Travis Jones instead of a Sam Williams would have been a better pick, and then maybe going developmental edge here, but obviously they did not do that. And then you have Devin Harper, the linebacker from Oklahoma State. Really athletic dude, tested really well. I think he can be a really good special teamer for this team, which at this point in the draft, again, it's a pretty solid pick for the Cowboys. He's super athletic. I watched him a little bit at Oklahoma State. You could find something there at linebacker, but I think he's just mainly going to be a special teams guy for you for the Dallas Cowboys. So my final grade for the Cowboys is a C+. They had a solid draft. Their first 3 rounds I really didn't like, with reaching for Tyler Smith, really reaching for Sam Williams, and then I'm just not a big Jalen Tolbert guy. And then they kind of made up for it in the mid to late rounds, but all in all, it's, slightly above average, with a C+ coming in for the Dallas Cowboys. And then we have the New York Giants, and we just got to talk about their first round real quick. I know, I kind of talked about this in my first round draft video, but these 2 first round picks were home runs. Evan Neal, best player on my big board, absolute just stud. He's the best tackle in this class. You know, best all around. I think he's a really, really good run blocker. Not quite on the level of Ike Ekwonu, but he's still very, very good. I mean, just mauls dudes in the run game. And then he's a very, very good pass protector as well. Going to slot in immediately at right tackle and be there for years to come, opposite of Andrew Thomas, the left tackle. And then Kayvon Thibodeau as well at the 5th overall pick. I know I kind of went opposite order, but Thibodeau falling to 5 was a dream scenario for the Giants, and they went and snagged him so that no one would trade up with Carolina and get him. Thibodeau, to me, was the best edge rusher in this class, was a top 5 player on my big board. Dude is just so freaky athletic. I mean, everyone talked about Travon Walker's freaky athleticism. I think Thibodeau looks like a better athlete on tape. He's going to go in there. He's going to be immediate impact for the Giants. Once he gets his counter moves down, this dude is going to be almost impossible to stop. I mean, these 2 picks, A+, both of them. You cannot deny that that the Giants nailed those picks out of the park. And then we have the rest of their draft. So we start off with Wan'Dale Robinson in the 2nd round. I hated this pick. This pick to me was, they kind of panicked because of the fact that I don't think Kadarius Toney is going to be on their team this season. And Kadarius Toney is kind of that gadget-type player where you scheme up touches to get the ball in his hands, and that's what Wan'Dale Robinson is. I had a 5th to a 6th round grade on Wan'Dale Robinson. I just didn't see it on the tape. I thought he lacked the ability to run a route in general. Just was kind of a go slant guy at Kentucky, or they just got the ball in his hands on bubble screens, stuff like that. I don't think his release package is great at all. I think he's, strictly a slot guy at the next level. And I just didn't really see his play speed as well as he tested. I thought he was a lot slower than what he showed at the Combine and in his pro day. If you wanted somebody that was a gadget-type player where you could get the ball in his hands and kind of do stuff with him, I don't understand why they didn't go Velus Jones or Khalil Shakir or somebody like that. I mean, I thought those 2 guys were way better prospects than Wan'Dale Robinson, in my opinion. But then after that, they really, did a really good job. I thought Joshua Zudu from North Carolina was a good pick. I think it was a little bit early for him because I had him as a 3-4 guy, round 3, round 4 guy. But, the interior offensive lineman class was a little bit lacking, and I think Zudu plays with really good power. I don't think he's a great pass blocker, but I think he can develop into a nice starter for you and help really get Saquon back to pounding the rock for this team. Cornell Flats a B. I had him as a 4th round grade. Good, press corner, lengthy. I think he's going to be a slot guy in the next level. But in all honesty, the guy they really could have used in this spot, if you were looking for a guy that was really good at press, was Zion Mccollum, who I could not believe fell to the 5th round. I mean, absolute steal of the draft. So that's my only criticism. I do like Cornell Flott. I think he can turn into a nice starter, but I had Zion Mccollum as a high 2nd round grade. It was a top, I think, 35, 40 player on my board. This is just kind of, an insult to him, honestly, taking Cornell Flott over him. But Cornell Flott's a good player. Could contribute in year 1 as well as their dime or nickel guy. Be interesting to see how much contribution you get year 1 from him. And then in the 4th round, they took Daniel Bellinger, tight end from San Diego State. I really like this pick, A-. I think he fits their scheme really well. Next to him in Caden Smith, he's going to be a traditional tight end. I just felt like San Diego State underutilized him. I thought he was their best pass catcher there. I think he's a smooth route runner, really solid hands, not afraid to get down and dirty in the run game, blocking, also not afraid to just ram some dude over with his shoulder. Bellinger was really underrated. I think he was like tight end 6 or 7 for me. I thought he was a very, very good prospect. 3-4 guys, so this is really good value for him and a really great fit in this Brian Daboll scheme. He reminds me a lot of Dawson Knox, who kind of broke out last season, had a great year for the Bills in Brian Daboll's scheme. Then we have Dane Belton from Iowa. I was much higher on Dane Belton. I feel like he has some of the same abilities as Kyle Hamilton in that he can play multiple positions. I don't think he's going to be a great true free safety, but he can come down into the box, act as another linebacker, kind of like Jabril Peppers did last year for them, play really good against the run. He's a sure tackler. He can, face guard tight ends. I think that's going to be his role with Xavier McKinney being that high free safety. Really like Dane Belton. A lot of people thought this was early, but I really like Dane Belton. I thought he was like a fourth round guy, so really great value here in my opinion for the Giants. Then Micah Mcfadden, in the 5th round here, I have this grade as a B. This is a round where I thought you should take him. Definitely, going to compete. He's a hard-nosed dude, good sideline-to-sideline guy. Will be a nice special teamer to start with upside, development upside to become a starter. The Giants really needed to add linebacker. I think that they could have even gone earlier with this pick, but very good selection here for the New York Giants. Then we have DJ Davidson from Arizona State. I thought he was a draftable player. I think this is definitely a little bit early for him, but like I said, kind of with the Cowboys in a weaker interior defensive line class, if you think some guy has any upside, day 3, you may as well take him when you can. I think he's a good run defender. Gonna switch in on those interior downs for like Leonard Williams, guys like that to give him breaks. I don't think he offers much upside as a pass rusher, but, rotational early down run defender for them there. And then we have Marcus Mckeithen, guard UNC. I wasn't as high on him as the rest of the people. I thought he was, 6th to a priority free agent. Joining his teammate here as Zudu. He's not as, powerful as Zudu. He doesn't have a great anchor. Gets knocked off his stance really easily. And is not a great run blocker either. However, he is he's athletic and a solid puller in the run game. I think you might have something there with a developmental guy. So we'll see. And then Darien Beavers here, the linebacker Cincinnati. Really like this pick. Shout out to Paul Zarnicki for getting me on this guy. After I watched his tape, I was like, wow, Darien Beavers, was better than people think. I think Beavers can turn into a starting linebacker. He's quick, fast, really good tackler, good sideline-to-sideline guy. Definitely needs some work in coverage, but I really like Darien Beavers. I was high on him. I had a 4th round grade on him, so this is really good value for him here in the 6th round, early 6th round. So I think Beavers could compete for a starting job day 1. Don't know if he'll get it, but I really like him to be able to compete here, not only for a linebacker spot, but for special teams as well. I think he'll be a really good special teamer for you day 1. So my final grade for the New York Giants is an A. Outside of the Wan'Dale Robinson pick, I think they really nailed it. Taking a couple guys a little bit early, but, that's kind of how the draft is. You see some guys go earlier than expected, like DJ Davidson, Marcus Mckeithen, Josh Zudu, and Cornell Flats. But, other than that, other than the Wan'Dale Robinson pick, I think it was a really, really good draft for the New York Giants. Then we have the Philadelphia Eagles, who, again, I thought had a very good draft, and really, Howie Roseman really kind of made up for his last couple drafts with this one. So let's start in the 1st round with Jordan Davis, trading up for him. I thought this was a really good move by Philadelphia. Originally, I had it as an A-, but as I thought about it more and more, it really makes sense that they went with Jordan Davis. So I'm changing this grade to an A+. Just, phenomenal. I mean, Jordan Davis is just, his ceiling is through the roof, man. I think he's got a top 5 ceiling in this class. He's going to be purely a run defender, I think. He does have some upside as a pass rusher, but I doubt he'll ever be more like a 5-6 sack guy here and there. Davis is freaky athletic. We all know it. And he's going to give Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave the ability to rest on early downs and just clean house in the run game. I mean, Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave are good run defenders in their own right. However, it just gives them a breather. And the craziest part is their second, their first offensive or defensive line rotation is Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, and Josh Sweat. And their second is better than most people's first. It's Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham out on the edge, and then Milton Williams and Jordan Davis. It's crazy how talented their interior defensive lineman group is. And him and Milton Williams are the future, and they're going to be one of the most athletic duos at that position group we've ever seen. And then flipping the 18th overall pick for A.J. Brown, I mean, can it get any better than that? And signing him to a long-term deal, I mean, this really puts you in position to make some noise, not just this year, but next year, but for years to come. And I really think this is a move for the future. This draft tells me that Philly does not think that Jalen Hurts is their guy. And honestly, I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts. I don't think they're going to win very many playoff games with Jalen Hurts. Look, I've been a supporter of Jalen Hurts since he got drafted, even though I thought it was a definite reach for the Philadelphia Eagles. But in reality, Jalen Hurts is still, after this last season of starting, he's still a one-read-and-run quarterback. He hasn't been able to develop any sort of, read through his progressions. I like his pocket movement, but it could be much better. I think Hurts isn't going to be the guy for Philadelphia, and they picked up Carson Strong as a undrafted free agent, which is a hell of a pickup, by the way. We're not including UDFAs in these videos, but he is a hell of a pickup. Think I'm going to be doing a video on Carson Strong when I get back home because he's a super intriguing player. So keep tabs on that. But this is just a phenomenal pickup for the Philadelphia Eagles. Getting one of the premier wide receivers via trade is rare and hard to come by, and Howie Roseman saw an opportunity and took it with A.J. Brown. And then we have Cam Jurgens, the center from Nebraska. This was definitely early for him, but the reason why I have it as an A- is because he is the perfect guy to replace Jason Kelce. I mean, he is if Linderbaum didn't exist, he would be the perfect replacement for him. And it's a really good compensation to Tyler Linderbaum. He's super athletic, super mobile, really good at pulls, reach blocks, which is what that wide zone scheme is all about. And he's not ready to play right away at all, but this is a really, really good pick. He's going to sit behind Jason Kelce and learn from him, who is probably going to be retiring soon. I mean, he's older. He did take, he did get a contract extension with the Eagles, but I don't know how much longer he's going to be around. I know they drafted Landon Dickerson last year, who played center at Alabama, but he's been playing really well at guard and was an upgrade over Isaac Seumalo. So just keep him at guard and then get Cam Jurgens in there at center in the future, and you will still have a really good offensive line, which I think is one of the more underrated offensive lines in the league. I mean, Philly's offensive line is crazy good. And then we have Nakobe Dean, linebacker of Georgia, and I know instantly what you're thinking. Why the hell is this not an A+? Well, let me tell you why. So, first off, I was not very high on Nakobe Dean. I had a second to third round grade on him. I thought he was a dime linebacker. I thought he was not as fast as he played on tape. In fact, I saw a tweet that said he was a 4.69, 4.7 guy, so that proves my point even more. And also, he was protected by the best defensive line in the country, Jordan Davis, Travon Walker, Devontae Wyatt, among others. And so he had free lanes to blitz the quarterback, and that's why he led the team in, sacks. I think Nakobe Dean is a really good man cover guy and is going to be able to match up with running backs and tight ends from day one. I think his instincts in zone need to improve. He's too much of a covering grass, not man, in zone coverage. And then he's going to be nothing against the run. I mean, he's 5'11", 230. I mean, he's nothing against the run. So he's not going to be in there on early downs. He's going to be more like a Kazir White, which you have for this season, and on a one-year deal. And also on top of the fact that Nakobe Dean is going to offer you nothing in the run and is really only a dime linebacker to me at this point, he's going to be out probably the entire season with a shoulder injury, which I did not know until after he got drafted, that he declined surgery on his shoulder, and it's going to be probably looking like he's going to miss the entire season. So Nakobe Dean's going to take a redshirt injury year this year, and you're going to have Kazir White, who in my opinion is a much better player. And then, I don't know if they're going to bring Kazir White back, and then they'll probably have Nakobe Dean go into that role after that. But I don't think Nakobe Dean is this special guy. I had him literally one spot above Chad Muma in my big board rankings at my linebacker 3, and I had Leo Chenal and Devin Lloyd much higher ranked than I did Nakobe Dean. But I still think Nakobe Dean's going to be an impactful player for this Philadelphia Eagles team, just probably not this year. Then you have Karon Johnson, the edge linebacker hybrid from Kansas State. Dart throw. He's kind of a hybrid freaky edge, unlike Hassan Reddick. Came out of Temple and kind of flip-flopped in Arizona, playing both edge and linebacker. So, mentor there for him as they're playing similar positions. I don't know how much you'll get out of Karon Johnson, but, dart throw isn't the worst thing in the world. And then we have Grant Calcutta, the tight end of SMU, which I thought was a B. I think he compares pretty well to Dallas Goedert. They lost Zach Ertz last year. They traded him to the Arizona Cardinals. So I think it's a nice tight end too. Solid hands, willing run blocker, even though I don't think he's great at it. Similar to Dallas Goedert, just pretty athletic. Good route runner, solid hands. I think he's just kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. But I think he's got some decent upside to be a tight end 2 for a long time in this league. 25, 30 catches, 250, 300 yards, and a couple touchdowns. So good pick there to fill out the tight end room. My final grade for the Eagles is an A. I think they really knocked this out of the park, especially by getting Jordan Davis and A.J. Brown. I mean, they just, they killed that part. Howie Roseman really changing the narrative on him as one of the better GMs in the league after having a couple hiccups with Arcega-Whiteside and Jalen Reagor. I think he really, really nailed this draft. And then we have the Washington Commanders, who in the first round they went with Jahan Dotson from Penn State, the receiver. So I kind of talked about this in my first round grades video. So you're at 11 and you're the Washington Commanders, and you only got a third and a fourth from New Orleans to move up 5 spots, where you could have had one of these 3 players: Jameson Williams, Kyle Hamilton, or Chris Olave. And instead you trade back and you get Jahan Dotson at 16, which I don't think is a bad pick. The reason why it's a B-, because I think the pick in general is more of an A-, is because you traded back and you gave up those players who I think were better prospects than Jahan Dotson. I also think this whole Commanders fan base thing where they're blowing out of the water that they need a receiver is just untrue. Terry McLaurin's your one. He's obviously a very, very good receiver who has produced with lackluster quarterback play. Curtis Samuel's a really good number 2 option. Electric with the ball in his hands. Really nice route runner. Takes the top over the defense along with McLaurin. Also working in the intermediate short part of the field. Just has to stay healthy. And then you have Diamy Brown, who might be the most underrated player ever right now, who was a insane deep threat at North Carolina, was a top 50 player in the class last season, and they just forgot about him. And I understand that he didn't produce a ton in year 1, but also Taylor Heineke was your quarterback, so that's kind of my bailout answer for that is I think that Heineke's not the greatest deep ball thrower in the world, and if it was Fitzmagic, I think you would have seen much better production out of Diamy Brown. And not to mention, you brought in Sam Howell, who was his college teammate at North Carolina, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But I don't think Jahan Dotson's a bad player by any means. In fact, I thought he was super underrated. throughout this draft process. I just don't understand why you would give up the chance to get a Chris Olave or a Jameson Williams or even a Kyle Hamilton and get a third and a fourth from New Orleans, to just get Jahan Dotson, in my opinion. So it's a B- there. And then Phidarian Mathis, the interior defensive lineman for Alabama, which is clear reach. I had as a D. There were much better players on the board. And also, you just let go Tim Settle. You just let go Matt Ioannidis. Why didn't you pay either one of those guys instead of taking Phidarian Mathis in the second round? And if you were going to take an interior defensive lineman, why didn't you take Travis Jones? I don't know, man. I mean, I don't have any real reason why they took Phidarian Mathis, because he is no upside as a pass rusher at all, and he's just a mediocre run defender in my opinion. I had him as a day 3 guy. It just doesn't make any sense. And then their third round pick, a guy who I was higher on at my 5th running back, is Brian Robinson Jr. out of Alabama. This is a round where I thought he was going to get taken, so that's why it's only a B. I really think that this adds a power element to the team that they were lacking since they've had really Alfred Morris on the team. McKissick is a receiving threat, and that's about it. He gets the ball on carry sometimes. Jarrett Patterson is, kind of that home run threat, and then Antonio Gibson's your main bell cow guy who's really not much of a power guy at all. He's more of a, he played receiver and running back in college. So this gives you a guy where it's, fourth quarter and he gets 10, 12 carries a game, short yardage guy, red zone guy, where it's just pound the rock and give it to him. He's going to be their closer. I thought Robinson was really underrated throughout the draft process. I liked his vision. I liked his ability to kind of create as a running back where, sometimes it wasn't always there and he just, blows over a dude with his shoulder. I really liked Brian Robinson Jr., and I thought he was an underrated pass catcher, similar to Najee Harris last year coming out. So really like this pick for the Commanders. And then we have Percy Butler out of UL Lafayette. I thought he was a 5th, 6th round guy, so I thought this was definitely a reach. I think he can provide, he's rangy, so that's a good thing. He's just sure tackler, but his coverage needs a lot of work, in my opinion. So, pick. I mean, they did need somebody in that safety room, but they could have gone Verone McKinley here, who I had as a day 2 guy that went undrafted. I thought that would have been a much better pick than Percy Butler, so it's kind of whatever. Then we have Sam Howell, who I cannot believe fell to the 5th round. Just criminal. Bailey Zapp went before him from New England. I'm going to talk about that. Why that is, but I just really don't understand what the NFL doesn't like in Sam Howell. I mean, he's got an absolute cannon for an arm. I had him as a 1st round grade, so I cannot believe he lasted this long. He's got a cannon for an arm, really athletic. I think good deep ball accuracy. And this is a dude that I think can compete with Carson Wentz day 1 for the starting job. Don't think he's going to win it, but I do think he can compete right away with Sam Howell. I think he's better than Taylor Heineke at this point in time. So definitely a storyline to watch. This maybe will push Carson Wentz into being a better quarterback as well. Then you have Cole Turner, the tight end from Nevada. Just a big-bodied red zone threat. I think he does have some upside, but I think he's super raw as a prospect. But you needed some upside in this tight end room with, it lacking really after Logan Thomas. And then we have Chris Paul, the interior offensive lineman from Tulsa, not the point guard for the Phoenix Suns, who I had as B+ grade. I thought he was a 5th, 6th round guy, so really good value here. He tested absolutely off the charts, but his tape is not great. This is why he fell so far in the draft. But I think, the Commanders have done a really good job at developing guys. At the offensive line, I think it's something that goes definitely undervalued with their team. So I think Chris Paul can be a nice developmental guy for them, over, the coming years and potentially turn into a starter, taking over for Schweitzer or I'm drawing a blank on the other guy there, but he could turn into a starter one day. And then Christian Holmes, corner from Oklahoma State. I don't see any upside of him playing corner at all, but I think he can be a special teamer potentially for this team. So, yeah, my final grade for them is a B-. Overall, I think them trading back and giving up the opportunity of a Jameson Williams or a Chris Olave was really detrimental. And then the Fedarian Mathis pick in the second round was not great in my opinion, along with the Percy Butler pick in the fourth round, which is really taking this grade down. But all in all, I'd say it's a good draft for the Washington Commanders. I think they could have maximized in some other areas better than others, but pretty good draft from the Washington Commanders overall. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Stay tuned for the rest of these videos in the series. We'll have NFC North out on Tuesday, NFC South on Wednesday, and then NFC West on what would that be? Thursday. So stay tuned for that, please. I hope you guys all enjoyed draft weekend. Thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate all the support. Have a great day, and peace.